Anita here and welcome to day 5 of the Inktober challenge. Today, it was a very good day. I've had a very good day today, painting-wise. I'm working on a picture. Excuse me. I'm working on a picture of what I have dubbed a baby witch. The idea behind this picture was just a very young witch that is kind of using her magic to summon this bear or a yeti or just some kind of monster from another dimension. And initially she had like a little wand in her hand, but that my cat is making a mess downstairs. So initially she had a little wand in her hand, but I've decided against it in the end. It just felt a little bit busy in that one area where the wand was, so I focused the whole magic in the little star jewel attached to her hat. And of course she has to have a giant hat. For me, a witch is not a witch without a giant hat. I am a Terry Pratchett girl. For me, Terry Pratchett is the Bible of the witches, you know, everything that Terry Pratchett says that witches should or shouldn't do, that's what I think as well. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I've read so many Terry Pratchett books in my life that I can't help but base a lot of I just love Terry Pratchett. I base a lot of stuff that I create on the things I've read in Terry Pratchett books, like the rules of the world, let's put it this way. Back to the painting. This time I am starting with a background because I had a specific thing that I wanted the background to be. I wanted it to be very dark, but of course I wanted there to be a definition, like there should be a difference in darkness between the bear and the background itself. I wasn't sure exactly how far I wanted to push that bear into the darkness, so you will see me adding several layers over the course of the whole painting, because what I knew for sure was that I wanted to have a black background again, because there's this kind of like a portal gate kind of thing where in front of which the witch is sitting. Once again, I'm using the little trick where I'm filling the areas. I'm marking the borders off camera, and then I'm filling in the spaces on camera, and that helps me really with the whole eye problem. I have to say that my eyes are much better, by the way, just so you know. I don't know if they adjusted. I didn't do anything. They just one moment they just stopped hurting. So I'm happy. I'm still going to get an appointment for the glasses, so that's still happening, but I'm happy that I can just work without a headache. It makes a ton of a difference. So I've noticed one thing about painting with ink. I feel like I'm improving. This makes me very happy as well. And what I've noticed is that it helps me to put the background first. It really helps me to establish what the character should look like, rather than working other way around. I don't know why it is like that. It's just, for me, it seems easier. Probably because, you know, you're working, well, in this case, I'm working from the darkest possible value. So if I know that I want to have the blackest black. Okay, now my cat is splashing around in her water bowl. I wonder if you can hear that. I hope not. Well, it's not a big problem. So as I was saying, you know, my blackest black is in the background, so that's where I'm starting with. If my blackest black was in the foreground, I think that's where I would start. I'll have to test that at some point. I've just noticed that it's much easier for me to work like backwards from darkest to lightest values. because then I'm setting everything according to that black instead of trying to go beyond black. Sometimes, you know, you don't see you don't see how the values will go. At least I don't see it yet. I don't plan ahead yet. Hopefully that will happen at some point. But so then it's just easier to start with black because I can't go any further than that. So I'm just filling in basic layers. As you can see here now, I'm putting another layer of that darker shade. Just layering basic. The bear was, I think, layered the most because I wasn't exactly sure how far I wanted to push him. And so, as I've mentioned before, it's always easier for me to just start lighter, keep building it up. It adds a little bit of time to the whole process, but I can live with that. It really makes a difference for me. And I'm also, what I'm doing, it's the same pretty much thing I'm doing with watercolors. I'm pulling the same value into a different spot in the painting just to tie it all together. So for example, when I put in the first layer of the bear, I've used the same value to add to the hair and then to the middle pillow. Then when I made the bear darker, I've put the same value at the bottom. And it kind of ties everything together as, you know, I don't think in colors, I'm thinking in values now, but it just ties everything together just the same way as I would do it in a watercolor painting. Another thing I'm really starting to experiment with, or I'm trying to push myself to experiment with, and it helps because I really like that effect. I'm getting a bit looser with the whole wet on wet ink washes. I really have a problem with losing control over painting, but I really like the way the little bit of texture that the swirling ink, the blooms are adding to the whole painting. It's like a natural texture, I feel, because of course I can add a pattern to make a wash more interesting. Something I love to do, and I will add it, to the pillows. I will add some patterns later on. But this is another way just for me to add texture, is to have the ink bloom in the clear water. And as you can see, I'm just trying to add it anywhere I can because I really like that effect. Another thing I've stopped doing, and this is I don't know, this is the second painting I've stopped doing it. I'm not how do I say it so that it's basically, I'm just using strokes when I'm shading. I'm not trying to blend it out. I always felt that shading, it's very hard to explain it, but I hate shading. For me, shading is another thing after, proper anatomy that for me, it feels like a waste of time. I don't like it. I don't feel like it's necessary in my paintings too much, of course, because of course some shading is needed. But what I hated about it the most is that I couldn't accept anything except the very smooth gradient like shading. And I would, make a wet on wet little shades, and I would add colored pencil to add shading so that it would be very smooth. And at some point, I loved it at the beginning. I really, really loved it when I just started this channel. But at some point, it started really wearing me out. I don't know, it became really tiring to just have all that effort for so little, really, effect. And so I've started using just regular strokes without trying to blend them out. And I have to say, I really like that effect. It's not only faster, but it's also more, I feel, it might be a bit silly, but it feels a bit more painterly. It feels like I'm really painting instead of trying to make everything perfect and almost digital on a traditional painting. So I don't know. I don't know if it's going to stick. At the moment, I'm loving it. It makes everything feel a little bit more messy, which is not my forte. But maybe it's because like I've mentioned, I'm trying to loosen control over my paint, I'm trying to accept that I won't be always in control of what the paint does. Perhaps that's helping me a little bit to accept the fact that, my shading doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. And because of that, I can add, a little bit more of it, or make it a little bit more, saturated, darker. I don't know. I'm still more of a pattern person, as you can see here. I love adding patterns to things. For me, patterns are a way of adding shape to the object. I just love it. They add really so much dimension and so much interest. So I really, I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about while painting this. That, I really stopped picking, really just nitpicking the gradients for my shading. I'm just really loosening up and playing with it, and it's such a nice feeling. I'm rambling a little bit. I hope you guys will forgive me. So here I'm adding a bit more definition to the hair. At first I wanted to make this similar effect to day 2, I believe. I have the pictures here. Yeah, it was day 2 with the Royal Witch. The same kind of like strokes, but in this case I wanted the curls to be really, really tight. I don't know, I've imagined this really almost angelic curly hair, like, the picturesque little baby. Of course they are dark here, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you just have this description of just this perfect little baby that has beautiful curls, and just this is what I was picturing when I was making this sketch for this illustration. And so it didn't really work out for me to use the same technique as in day 2, but I think I actually achieved the look of tight curls. And I'm very happy because I rarely actually draw. Yeah, I rarely draw. I'm really tired today, so I'm rambling a little bit. I rarely draw really tight curls, so that was very good practice, and made me really happy. So I had a bit of a problem what to do with the jumper, with little, I don't know if it's even called a jumper, the little pajama thingies that the baby is wearing. Because initially I wanted it to have stars on it, and I was debating the whole time whether or not I wanted to have black stars or white stars, or what I wanted to actually do, because it felt, I've had those little the patterns on the pillows, and I felt like if I put another pattern, it would just be too much, because there is a pattern on the hair technically, and I wanted to have a pattern, kind of a texture on the bear. There needs to be some room to breathe, So I was just, that's why I kept it, I left it till the end, because I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. So I kept kind of like going back and forth between different things and just trying to figure out what to do with the jumper. I figured that at first I'm going to put in, once again, all the things I know what I want to do with them. So at this point, I didn't know what to do with the jumper, but I did know what to do with the bear. So I went in and started adding fur. And at first I thought it would be a big fail, because once I started adding fur, and whenever I draw bears or any kind of animal, I add the fur, just a little bit of a hint of it at the edges, and leave the inside of the object, of the character, just with a plain wash. So as you can see, that's what I'm doing here. I'm kind of like going around adding the fur. But then I just kept thinking it wasn't enough. And I had a problem deciding what I wanted to do with that fur, how I wanted to approach it. And eventually, you can see it here when I'm in the corner next to the baby. I'm kind of settling on this pattern where I'm doing a few strokes to the right, a few strokes to the left on the diagonal, I'm kind of overlapping them here and there, kind of cross-hatching, I suppose, to a certain degree, but it was supposed to be fur. And I started liking that. That was when I felt, oh, okay, this is it. I have finally something that I like, and I started filling it in. It took some time. I'm not the most patient person when it comes to, I don't like cross-hatching. And one time I remember I did the painting where I've only used dots. I don't really know how it's called. I've only used dots, and oh my goodness, that was the longest painting of my life. And it was tiny, okay? And my hand was hurting afterwards so much, I had enough dots for weeks. So I keep adding the hair here, and the bear is starting to look really kind of like, creepy cute. I don't know, that's how I see it. It's kind of like creepy cute. And so I started adding a bit of shading to him because he was still too flat. He wasn't supposed to be this flat. And of course, I started pushing him a little bit further into the darkness. So I'm just basically adding some shading around, trying to blend it out so that it's not too obvious that it's, it's not a shadow, like a shadow. It's just he's a little bit further away. I don't know how to explain it. I wanted that part to be nicely and smooth gradiented out. So now I'm adding the white details. And this is, as you can see, this is my compromise for the pattern. And I wanted to add on the jumper. I've decided to add just a little patch. Like as if there was a tear and someone just patched it up with a star. Applique, I think that's how it's called. Just a little patch. And then I started adding the white detail to the glow around the star. That was my big, just a big focal point. That's why the whole background needed to be this dark. And I was trying to figure out how to make sure that the viewer, meaning you, knew, without me telling you of course, that the bear is supposed to be mesmerized by the star, so that he's not, for example, attacking the baby, because it's not clear. It's just some kind of giant creature coming out of the darkness. And so what I did, and I did that off camera, but you can see it here. I just went really close with my nose to the paper, and I have added tiny little stars inside the eyes instead of just a shiny bit. And that for me really made sure that it became obvious that, this bear was just looking at that star. So I was really happy. And I have to say, I thought that yesterday's picture was a good, it was my best. This is seriously, I'm so happy with this picture. I really feel like I'm getting this whole ink thing. I really feel like I'm getting better at it. So let me know in the comments what you think about it. I really feel like this is a step in the right direction. Thank you so very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!